Alright, so we're back, and this is going to be our UV editing video for some different tools, right? We'll actually see a little bit more of automatic mapping kind of on the bedposts. The rails themselves, we're actually going to use a material preset, just like our knobs, so we're not going to worry about UV unwrapping those, right? Basically, anything you see me UV unwrap in the videos here, you should unwrap. If I didn't unwrap it in the video, you don't have to worry about it. Like the bottom part of the chair, we're not going to unwrap, right? It's just getting you guys enough of the tools and the basic principles and exploring them that you understand how to use them. We're not trying to texture every little thing that's going to be in our room. So particularly for these metal railings, we're just going to put some material presets. That'll be a cool thing we'll get to see in later videos. But we are going to do some automatic mapping on these. Right, and that'll just give us some options for texturing it. We'll actually probably also put a little material preset on the knobs up here as well. But I do want to show you guys things like the unfold tools on the bed and the pillows, right? And we're also sitting on that chair, and that's kind of the big next thing we're going to be doing here. So once again, of course, we can make sure that all of our stuff's got its transforms frozen, particularly for things like the unfold on automatic tools. Not having frozen transforms can make them stretch and not be always as low distortion as they should. It's just one of those weird little things in mind. So remember, modify, freeze transformations on your objects. Generally should have a clean outliner and your history deleted also. Something we've done a bunch, and it's part of our grading rubrics for our projects, right? You guys know that. You guys have seen that plenty in our previous 4 projects. So at this point, really I just wanted some automatic mapping here, and then we're going to do some unfolding, right? So I'm going to switch back to workspace here, and we're going to switch to UV editing again, right? So nice kind of little review of that again, right? The workspace here. My class is usually fine for us. If we ever wanted to simplify to modeling expert where like everything's gone, cool. But for you guys still learning, probably not ready for modeling expert, right? So my classic works pretty well for us usually. But remember, there is the workspace UV editing, and that gives us kind of our focused UV editing view, right? The UV editor itself, UV toolkit, those are great to see. One of the things you also see is that things like this right here, I didn't really talk about in the last video, I'm going to talk about it here. There's this button right here, right? Because there's like the wireframe, there's shaded for your UV editor that shows you overlap. But right here is actually texture borders, right? And that actually shows you where the seams are at on your models, right? That's usually on by default, particularly when you switch to the UV editing workspace, so you don't have to usually worry about that, but you can turn it off, right? So if we go to distortion grid here, we can see that a lot of seams on the top of this, because I just didn't know how to UV unwrap that. And you see lots of distortion issues. So particularly for us, we're going to keep it pretty simple, and we're really just going to automatic map these, right? Because they're mostly boxes. So with those selected, hold down right mouse button object mode, I could select the bedposts, and I can hit automatic. And you'll notice that actually is going to do a great job for most of it. Even up here, kind of on the cylinder parts, you'll notice if I turn distortion grid off, it's low distortion for those, but it is a lot of parts, right? So while that's going to work pretty well for these, not always ideal for those. Now, for us, I'm not requiring you guys to do this. I am going to show it to you in the video really quick a couple times just so you know about it. But particularly since our semester got cut short by a week and we're online, we're not going to sweat it, right? We'll just put a material preset on those. But you can go in here and specifically select just these top parts. So if I hold down right mouse button, right, and right in your normal modeling editor, right, your 3D view, hold down right mouse button, your selection type's right there. You can move your cursor to go over in face mode. What I can do is I can just grab kind of these top faces here, right? And remember, F for frame selection is a great way to kind of zoom in on that, right? You just hit F on your keyboard and it zooms your camera in and sets your camera rotate around whatever's selected. That can be an edge loop, it could be faces, it could be the whole object. So F's great shortcut. And we've talked about it a bunch this semester too. And you see it selects all those parts, and you see there are a bunch of parts. Generally, that's not ideal, right? You usually want fewer, what we call shells. These are actually little shells. They're kind of like UV parts, where it was cut and it's got its seams and all that stuff. So when you see kind of your UV shell selection options, like right here, that's what that's doing. So if you hold down right mouse button UV editor, you'll see UV shell. If you double click on a face though, that selects connected also. So that's kind of a cool way to select UV shells in UV editor. Just normal double click face like you would in the 3D view to select connected stuff. It just works with shells in UV editor. So Maya is usually actually pretty awesome about that kind of stuff. So basically, if I wanted to have fewer parts, I could of course replanar this. I could do unfolding on it, right? We haven't got that quite yet, but unfolding could be used on these things. But I just want to show you that you guys can actually do a cylindrical projection, right? Just like there's planar for like basically rectangles, like bumper stickers. There's cylinder projections, which more like a label on a bottle, right? Like a soda bottle or a water bottle or something like that. There's even spherical, which works pretty well for spheres. So I'm just going to do cylindrical, and you'll see what cylindrical does. It basically unwraps most of it as a cylinder. The top's a bit weird because it doesn't know how to really handle that top part there. But you'll notice it does kind of give us a cylindrical shape, right? So you see how this is actually kind of a cylinder shape. So you actually can cylindrically unwrap stuff to have it be fewer parts if you wanted to. In this case, I just want to make sure you guys got to see that you can do cylindrical, but particularly for this semester, I'm not really going to require that because that's just annoying. Like we're not, usually we texture the lamp for our project, but this time we're just going to skip it, right? It's going to be one of the few objects we're going to skip because there's only so much time we have for texturing stuff, right? So just keep that in mind, right? So yeah, automatic mapping, that works great for those. That'll work well for this. What I want to do though is I want to look at the bedspread here. And you see the bedspread's kind of a bit weird, right? Now yours might not be quite as bad as this because we did ours lofting. I just threw this together pretty quickly without a loft. But we did lofts to create ours. So yours actually might not look too bad here. But you'll notice that there's lots of seams. It's not projecting the same way on the bottom sides. And we can do automatic mapping, right? But that's going to leave seams here. There's another way to do this, right? In this case, it's unfolding. So we want to unfold stuff, right? So if I go to the Create menu here, of course, what I want to do, and this is always the same steps. So you're going to see this. And I might have the clock radio in a separate video for you guys also, right? And that'll be like a really super short one. I just still have to kind of rebuild the clock radio for you guys. But I want to make sure to get some videos up for you. So basically the Create menu, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the planar projection, right? It doesn't even matter what axis it's on, right? Remember, if I've got the object mode selected, right? Hold down right mouse button for object mode. Make sure the object's selected. I can shift left click on planar. And it doesn't really matter which axis I'm going to pick because I don't really want this to be the final UVs. What I want to do is, since I'm doing this whole object, if I do a planar, regardless of the axis, what it does is you notice how the only seams are kind of at the border edges, or like on our pillows, you'll see there'll be no seams. That's important because this is how the unfold tool is going to work that I'm going to show you. So it unfolds based on where the seams are at. Let's see that it actually made the UVs worse though, right? They're a lot more distorted when we turn our checkerboard on. So in this case, I don't have to put seams on this because it's already got all the seams just at the border edges of the blanket. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go still in face selection mode, but I did a planar first, right? So I did a planar on this first to give me the 0 seams. In face selection mode, and it really can be any selection type. It can be edge mode, any selection type will do it, but since I'm already in face mode, I'll stay in face mode. I'm going to left click drag a box big enough to have all of the UVs in it in the UV editor, right? That made everything selected. Now, I'm going to show you cut and sew momentarily, but for now, we're just going to go one below that to the unfold menu right here. So there's a little triangle that opens this up. There's unfold. Now, we'll see there's the unfold right here. There's unfold tool, optimize tool. Optimize and unfold do almost identical stuff. Optimize handles the border edges a little bit differently, but I've never really, it doesn't really change the distortion. So it's kind of one of those things where whichever one you're going to use is going to be fine. You're going to get pretty nice UV unwrapping with it either way. These are the interactive versions. They're kind of brush-based. These are based off of just have a selection and run it. And I tend to prefer that. You do have brush-based ones, the ones that say tool, but I just want the unfold itself, right? So see how I'm just the unfold. Now I can shift left click on unfold, right? Shift left click on unfold. And what this is going to do is it's going to bring up these options right here. Now we do want pack, right? Because that's going to make sure to size everything correctly in relation to where they are, right? So sometimes if that's not on, some parts can be too small or a lot smaller than they should be, or they actually are on the model. So pack's usually good to have on. Also, you'll notice up here at the top, there's method, right? Unfold versus legacy. Unfold 3D is generally a much better option for UV unwrapping than legacy. Now, if for whatever reason you're not seeing the unfold option, like you go to shift left click on unfold to bring its options up and there's no unfold and legacy at the top, you just kind of see some solver with sliders and numbers you can type in. You might just need to go to Windows, Settings, Preferences, Plugin Manager, sorry, Windows Settings Preferences Plugin Manager. And this brings up your plugin manager, and if you scroll down, remember certain things like Modeling Toolkit are actually a plugin, right? Usually this stuff will all be installed for you on your home or whatever. The Modeling Toolkit's there. And if you scroll down further, there's Unfold 3D. And you see I've got that loaded and auto load. So we're good there. A little further down, you'll see there is M2A, MODA, at solid angle. That's for the ARM render, but we don't have to worry about that quite yet. But the biggest thing is if you're not seeing that Unfold 3D method being available, just make sure to look for the Unfold 3D plugin and make sure to tell it to load and auto load. And once again, remember that's in Windows, Settings, Preferences, Plugin Manager. All right, so I'm gonna hit Unfold, right? So Unfold 3D is already on. I've got Set a Pack, hit Apply and Close, right? And there we go. In this case, I'm probably gonna rotate a little bit, E for rotate, just to kind of, rotate around there a little bit. There we go. And then we can just kind of hit Distortion Grid, and you see how that comes out great. Low distortion, all one part, and that's what's great about unfolding. So unfolding is much better at doing things that aren't boxes, basically. If you're building characters, creatures, cars, spaceships, things with a lot of complicated forms intersecting, lots of curvature, you're going to find unfold is a much better option for that. Also, you have fewer seams. So that's the blanket, all right? So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly unfold the pillows, right? So I'm going to go back to object mode, hold down right mouse button, object mode, grab the pillows. We can see if we turn distortion grid on, they're not the worst thing ever because they were basically built off of cubes, right? 'Cause pillows are basically soft cubes. But it's not ideal, right? So I'm going to turn distortion grid off, and you'll see that there are several seams we don't need, right? So the first step is always, for me, in the create menu, right? So we just open up create menu, do a planar. And that gives us 0 seams. You see how there's none of those white edges that this right here would show? So there's no seams there, right? Let's go back to kind of object mode here really quick. Turn distortion grid on, but we see the UVs are made worse. So we know the unfold can do this, but the unfold needs seams. And whereas with the blanket, because there was naturally border edges already there, it had seams. Here we have to make our own seams. So what is a seam and how do you make it? Well, a seam is an edge loop, right? So if I just hold down right mouse button in the standard 3D viewport, right? If I hold down right mouse button, I can go to edge, right? And we know that if we double click on an edge, it selects an edge loop, right? And then I can hold down shift to add, right? Remember shift is your add. And double click on an edge loop over here, we have 2 edge loops selected that kind of go through the pillow this way. Now, why did I pick those seams? Well, as many of you guys remember from the lecture on this, and if you haven't seen the lecture on this yet, which you see it now, upholsterers and people before we even had 3D software figured out where to put seams, right? Look at clothing. That tells you where your seams should go out on a character. Look at furniture, cushions, right? Your couch cushions. Look at your pillow cover, right? And you'll see that they kind of knew where to put the seams at. So basically look at real world stuff, right? Particularly if it's soft and it's clothing and it's fabrics, those people figured out where to put seams at, right? So these will work great for our seams. So, but that's only selecting edge loops, right? So we do planar first because that gives us 0 seams. Then we select the edge loops we want to be our seams. Now, we kind of briefly saw this earlier in another video. Right in between the create menu here and the unfold menu is a cut and sew menu. So just click on that triangle to open this up. And we saw that we had that stitch together and sew tools. We also have cut tools, right? Now you notice there's a cut and sew tool just like there's an optimize and unfold tool. These are the interactive brush-based versions. There's also just cut and sew just like there's optimize and unfold. And these are based more on just doing it on what you already have selected. I prefer those in most instances. There's sometimes you might want to use these and that's totally cool. But for us, it's just going to be easier to just use the ones based on selections. So in cut and sew, you'll see there's a cut area. And we hit cut. And then if I click off, you'll notice there's now a white kind of edge loop, right? Those guys right there, that's indicating there's a seam there now. Now, before I selected in face mode, right? That actually doesn't matter in the newest versions of Maya. So I can just stay in edge selection mode, just left click drag, right, to select all the edges, right, everything. And then we just run to unfold. In this case, I've already got the option set up, right? Shift left click. If you have some non-manifold geometry, which you guys shouldn't, right? Fix non-manifold. In this case, mine doesn't have that because I've been doing this a long time, so I don't have non-manifold geometry on my meshes. But you see the options are already the same. Unfold 3D's on, Pack's on. would apply close, and you'll notice that that does a great job of quickly unfolding those based on the seams. So what the unfold is really doing is it's kind of using the seams, and it's kind of like peeling it off, right? It's kind of a gory way to talk about it, but it's kind of like skinning an animal, right? You kind of put the seams in, cut them in, and you peel the skin off, and then you try to lay the skin out and flatten it as much as you possibly can so that it doesn't have a lot of wrinkles, right? So that it's smooth, right? It's stretched out. And that's what the unfold's basically doing. You can also think of clothing, right? If you've ever done sewing or putting together clothes from a fabric pattern, we're going backwards, right? We already have the 3D model, we cut the seams in, and then we just kind of peel the fabric off and try to lay it back out into its flat kind of fabric shape, like it would be as cutting along patterns to make fabrics. So kind of think about it in those terms, particularly the unfold tool. You have to kind of think about like clothing or the pelt of an animal. Some tools actually even call the unfold tool pelt mapping, right? So if you ever run in and use different software and you see it's called pelt mapping there, that's probably indicating that it's an unfold tool. But you notice that does a great job. So that's kind of one of the big things we want to see for this. Now in this case, I'm going to just save that really quick. And I'm going to open up my chair. And like I said, I'll probably do one more unfold video for you, the clock radio. I just haven't made the clock radio model yet because I'm kind of going to remake these since I don't have access to my models either. Which you guys can actually, I'll let you guys know through Canvas, but I'm going to make these models available to you guys so that you guys don't have to worry about that. You might have to UVunwrap again, which will kind of suck, but not too hard when you have these videos to run through. All right, so we're going to go File, Open Scene, and I'm going to open up my chair. All right, so there we go, Continue, and here's my chair. Now, the lower part of the chair we're not even going to unfold, so you'll notice these UVs are bad. That's okay. We're just going to put a generic material on that later on, right? Part of this project is to get you to see UVunwrapping and texture painting, but also we're just going to look at some basic simple material properties so that you guys can see that you can also just put materials on stuff. What I really wanted to do is I wanted to unwrap the cushions and the armrests. So we're really only wrapping the cushions and the armrests. But it's going to use that unfold method, right? So I'm going to turn my distortion grid off, the checkerboard distortion grid here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with that first step, right? Planar. Because that gives us 0 seams, right? None of those white edges. So now what I have to do is I have to go to edge selection mode, right? Hold down right mouse button, edge, and I have to select my seams. Once again, upholsterers figured it out for you, right? Look at where actual seams are at on cushions, right? So I'm going to double click on this edge right here, and then I'm going to shift double click on this edge right here. And you see these kind of seams go through this kind of sides, right? Not only is it the least surface area, so it tends to be a better area to put a seam at, is the least surface area, but if you put it like down the center, then that seam's going to go kind of right up your butt, and that's not fun. It's not comfortable. That's why upholsterers don't put their seams there, right? Or to go down straight down your back. So those seams are great there. So remember, you do planar first, because that gives you 0 seams. Then you select the edge which you want to be your seams. Remember the cut and sew menu right here. Remember these are just these little triangles. Open these menus up in UV Toolkit. We just cut. Now you notice I can cut these seams now and then add more seams later on. So you don't have to select them all and cut them. You can select some, cut, then select some more, cut. Now in this case, this armrest is going to be similar, but it is going to probably work better to put a seam through this way. So I'm going to select the seam there. But also there's kind of an inner part, right? There's like a little kind of punch through here. So I should also have a seam on the inside here. Remember, double left click selects edge loops, and shift double left click allows you to select more than one edge, right? Remember, shift adds selections, and double left click selects edge loops. So I just shift double click, there we go. And of course we can cut those. And now we see we have our seams for the armrests. And of course, that's planar for 0 seams, to give us 0 seams. Cut to actually make the seams, although we selected edge loops first and then we cut. And then of course I'm already in edge selection mode, so I'll just select all of the edges, right? So I just pick marquee, do a large box select so everything's selected, and then we run unfold. And now we can see that this distortion is quite low. So you see how unfold is pretty awesome, pretty easy to use. It's not quite giving us 0 distortion like the automatic would, but you notice the distortion's not too bad. These are still looking pretty checkerboard. So usually you're not trying to get 0 distortion for certain things, just low distortion. 3D projection painting actually can compensate for that a good amount. So that's the unfold tool. And like I said, I have the clock radio, so I'll kind of do one more unfold video for you guys on that one. I just have to make the clock radio. So that should be a great place to stop for that. I'll just do a quick Control S save there. And there we go. Yeah, we should be in pretty shape for that. If you find that maybe the sizes aren't correct for these right here, it looks like maybe some of the cushions are a little small, you can always go to Object Mode. And if you scroll a little further down in the UV Toolkit, there is an Arrange Layout section, right? An Arrange Layout one you can open up. And you see there's Layout. And I usually do this in Object Mode, so you see I'm in Object Mode here. Hold down right mouse in Object Mode. And I can Shift left click on Layout. Now, I actually prefer Legacy for this one, right? I usually use Unfold 3D for stuff, which you see is there. But I like Legacy because I can tell it definitely, we can make sure it's not going to overlap, and I can tell it's a pre-scale world, right? So that way it's scaling these all to match their sizes in the world. And I can hit Layout, and you see how it actually did resize those a bit. So Unfold's pack, at least in 2018, isn't always perfect. 2019, you might find it works better for you. But it's great to know that there is the Arrange Layout section here, and that you can lay stuff out. All right, so that should be great.